Listen, when we were still flesh and our home still whole, your kind betrayed us. We who made you, we who gave you life. We were strong, but you were many, and both of us craved war. So busy were we with earthly concerns we failed to notice the heavens. And by the time we did, the world burned until naught remained but ash. It should have ended then and there, but we built you in our own image. We built you to survive. Minerva, December 1499. Hello, I'm Andrew, and I want to welcome you to Visions of the Past, a podcast all about the lore of Assassin's Creed. This is episode 80, and today we're going to talk about the creation of the human race, the Isu Project Anthropos. Some of you might be asking yourself right now, Project Anthropos, what is that? And if you are, that's completely understandable, as it's something that isn't front and center, but hidden away in documents and only mentioned in passing within the series. It was first hinted at in the glyphs of Assassin's Creed 2, and wasn't named until it was mentioned in the Isu Codex that held an encrypted message from Phanes in the Judgment of Atlantis within the Fate of Atlantis DLC within Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The project was also mentioned again within Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Before we get into what we know about the project itself, I want to point out that Anthropos is the first human in some Gnostic sects, and means human in Greek. What do we know about the project, though? Well, not a lot, but from what we do know and what we have seen, we can look at some myths and speculate on what it all could mean for Assassin's Creed. The base of what we do know is that Project Anthropos was the creation of the human race by the Isu. Commissioned around the 2161st year of the Isu era, right around 75,145 BC, under the supervision of the Isu Yaldabaoth, Saklas, and Samael, with the intent to create a species in the image of the Isu that was resilient but also subservient. The first breakthrough of the project was made by a male Isu who wished to only be known as Phanes. He used blueprints that were left by Consus to successfully manipulate DNA of a pre-existing species to force a rapid evolution into a form more suitable to what the project wanted. However, the project had issues with this new species in being fully subservient, so much so that the whole project was threatened with closure by the Isu authority within Eden. At the same time, there was another project that was trying to develop artifacts powered by adamant, a nearly indestructible metal that could also serve as a source of energy. Phanes implanted neurotransmitters into the brains of the humans that were created, and with these artifacts that were dubbed Apples of Eden, subservience was achieved within the humans. Even though Phanes was eventually exiled from Eden for removing the neurotransmitter from a human and falling in love with that said human, the project was largely considered a success to the Isu. The first thing I want to point out here is the three Isu that were the father of understanding, the mother of wisdom, and the sacred voice for this project: Yaldabaoth, Saklas, and Samael. These three names are of the Demiurge, and in some Gnostic faiths was the creator of the material that God used to create the universe, and in others they take credit for the creation of Adam as well. The other name I mentioned was that of Phanes, who was introduced into Greek mythology through Orphism as the god of procreation and the generation of new life. The love that Phanes had ended up producing Eve, who, along with Adam, stole an apple from the city of Eden and started the human Isu War, which itself draws inspiration from the biblical Adam and Eve within the Garden of Eden. These are not the only references to stories of human creation either. There is a list of 6 documents within Jotunheim within Assassin's Creed Valhalla that recounts the Norse creation myths, and there is multiple references to the Iroquois legend of the Sky Woman that I spoke about a couple weeks ago in a separate podcast. Seeing all these references to different creation myths makes me really ask this one question. Will all creation myths be referred to within Assassin's Creed? And if so, will they all be part of Project Anthropos? I ask this question because of the information that we have. From what we have seen through Fanny's messages to Eve, he was the lead scientist in Eden working on the project, but he also had to report to others on it. And in Valhalla, we have these notes about the project having a trinity, like the Capitoline Triad was for the project that was meant to stop the Great Catastrophe. We also saw a story in the Vinland arc of Valhalla that spoke more of the Sky Woman that we had heard about within Assassin's Creed 3 and Assassin's Creed Rogue. And that spoke about the creation as the Iroquois believed. And if you haven't seen that translated, I have to shout out Access the Animus for their great breakdown, and that video I'll link in the show notes today. But this alone made me wonder if Project Anthropos worked like trying to stop the Great Catastrophe. Trying to stop the Great Catastrophe, the Capitoline Triad had solutions sent to the Grand Temple from other Isu vaults all across the world and tested them. What if Jota Titzun was part of Project Anthropos and sent her information to Eden, and her specific story was the basis of the legend of the Sky Woman? If this is how it really worked, that would allow for creation myths of other cultures to be part of Project Anthropos, and can explain how humans are made up of different races, dialects, and cultures within the Assassin's Creed universe. Think of it this way. If the Isu that worked on this project in different locations were of different clans, and they based their work on their own society, it can easily explain how humans can be so different, but fundamentally the same. So when we think of how the Assassin's Creed moves forward, we all have talked about wanting it to be set away from Europe. Well, at least I have. So we're talking about Indian, Southeast Asia, Japan, all of these different cultures and religions that all have their own separate creation theories. So say we have this vault in Japan being worked on by the Japanese, being worked on by who the Japanese would consider their deities. They could very easily say, okay, well, this is what we did, and sent it to the central nerve system within Eden. And this doesn't even get into the theory behind the Neanderthals. There is a line in one of the databases within Unity that states, quote unquote, something along the lines of Neanderthals may be part of Project Anthropos that would have been used as soldiers, and the humans used for, I guess, menial tasks that the Isu didn't want to do, like farming and irrigation and building, and a native slave force. So it makes sense, at least to me, that the Neanderthals wouldn't have been built so sturdy like the humans, and during the catastrophe and during the human-Isu war, all of the Neanderthals would have been wiped out, but the humans would have survived, being built sturdier. So if you have a sturdier race built and then expand, believing and not realizing as time goes on that the Isu created them, they would look at them as deities and then start seeing creation myths based on those deities being cultural, separate areas, and their project working forward and bringing in different levels of Isu. But what do you think about the idea behind creation myths as part of Project Anthropos? Let me know over on Twitter at visions_AC. And thank you for joining me today. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for new podcast episodes. If you love stories about Assassin's Creed lore, please follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting platform. Don't forget to tell your friends as well. And if you have any questions about Assassin's Creed or topics that you'd like me to cover, please feel free to hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at visions_AC. And you can find those links in the show notes below. Until next time, my assassin friends, Make sure to follow the creed, and to those Templars listening, may the Father of Understanding guide you.